Maulbronn is a small town in southwestern Germany. It is best known for its monastery, a former Cistercian abbey dating from the 12th century. This monastery is considered the best preserved medieval complex of its kind north of the Alps, and has had UNESCO World Heritage Site status since 1993. By the 15th century, its territory had grown to a considerable catchment area of 15 to 25 kilometers in some places, and included 20 surrounding villages. It developed into an economic, social and political center in the region. Its proximity to the once important imperial road between the cities of Ulm and Speyer may have made a considerable contribution to this. This road, called Via Rhenai, was part of an even older north-south connection from the Rhineland across the Alps down to Italy. It was used by the Romans and very probably also far before that in prehistoric times. Various finds, such as pottery remains, steles and burial mounds along its course suggest this. Anyone who is concerned with Christianity and ancient pagan cults will sooner or later come across the fact that in the vicinity of monasteries and medieval sacred buildings there are often places that were venerated by our ancestors as holy sites in the very distant past. In the case of Maulbronn with its monastery on the ancient road, an exploration of the surroundings from this perspective seems promising. Even the Romans did not open up their traffic arteries through their former empire in a completely new way, but often further developed already existing, prehistoric trade and probably also processional routes. This may explain the conspicuous accumulation of prehistoric pagan sites along these routes. Christian pilgrimage paths and route networks, such as the Way of St. James or the Via Sancti Martini, are also based on these ancient routes in large sections. The artificial reservoir behind the monastery complex, the so-called Deep Lake, could also have its origins in Celtic times. Water was sacred to the Celts because according to their belief, the soul was immersed in water after death in order to be resurrected from there. Therefore, springs or lakes in the vicinity of burial grounds played an important role at that time. The Romans were also aware of this and often drained these waters to plunder the offerings of gold and silver hidden in them. It is believed by some that the reservoir was found dried up by the monks when the monastery was founded, and then, for the purpose of water supply and fish farming, it was dammed up again. Directly by the lake and in the immediate vicinity of the monastery, at second glance, there are strange-looking mounds that do not seem to fit properly into the surroundings. On closer inspection, very old, carefully built dry stone walls under clay and plant cover stand out again and again. The mounds described by the established archaeology as walled spoil heaps are indeed often adjacent to medieval quarries. For the attentive observer, however, this rubble heap theory does not really apply, since among other things their sometimes enormous size in relation to the quarrying areas leads to the conclusion that mainly only overburden was produced there. It is assumed that these mounds consist through and through of dry stone walls built in layers, and with the time, thick deposits of clay and plant remains have formed on it, and which in addition also over the centuries for the production of building material were plundered piece by piece. Also, in some of them, confirmed by the site owners, passages leading inside have been discovered. Compared to similar sites in Germany and Europe, one thought is obvious. Namely that, contrary to the common opinion, these are not relics of early natural stone quarrying, but could be Maulbronn's heritage from megalithic times, visible to all, yet hidden to most. About 1.5 kilometers away from the monastery, on the outskirts of a small village, lies an idyllic forest-lined valley. It is crossed by a small stream that has its source in a nearby spring. The adjacent elongated hill to the right appears unspectacular at first glance. A dense growth of trees makes it hard to guess from below what is on its plateau. Looking down from above, over the edge of the steep embankment, reveals a step about 10 meters wide and over 100 meters long, that appears to divide the hill. On closer inspection, this step turns out to be an ascending ramp that leads from the bottom of the valley up to the plateau of the hill. From the air, its enormous dimensions can be seen. Inevitably, one wonders what function it served in the past. Also, the valley, which is green today, was perhaps not always dry. An artificial dam at its lower end suggests that a reservoir may have once existed here, whose water level was at the same height as the lower entrance of the ramp. On reaching the plateau of the hill, you will find yourself in the midst of man-made mounds, some of impressive dimensions, which are lined up along a length of 700 meters. On the north side they are framed by rock walls. To the south they change into steep slopes down to the valley. Everywhere you can see the remains of carefully placed dry stone walls. A network of alleys, like hollow paths, crosses the area and leads along the slopes of the elevations and their wall remains. As you pass by, you repeatedly come across buried portals and walled-up entrances. Here too, the alert observer asks himself, why all this trouble in edging supposed spoil heaps of a quarry operation? What was the need for entrances in these formations? And again, the sheer mass of material in relation to the size of the supposed quarry area doesn't really fit this rubble theory. The rocks in the north show unusual shapes and traces of work. Often you can see chiseled patterns over large areas, which were also found in this way in the quarries of ancient Egypt. The established archaeology describes the traces in this supposed quarry as remains of medieval or Roman mining techniques. Alternative researchers, on the other hand, see in them a deliberate decoration of the walls, probably for the purpose of highlighting the peculiarity of this place. The many completely smoothed and overhanging rock faces are also striking. These do not make any sense for mining in this form. A unique formation represents the tub carved out of the stone on a richly decorated rock wall. It has about the size that a person can easily lie down in it. Its former function is unknown, but the conclusion is that it could be an altar or coffin stone. Similar finds in Europe have been dated to the Bronze Age. The essential question of what it is that we see here cannot be answered beyond doubt in the end. One thing is certain, however. This place has its own magic that flows through body and mind when you slowly move through the area on these ancient paths.